We begin today the Gemara on the last line on Daf Lamed Vav Amud Beis, my prusbol. So this is the sugya of prusbol, which is when you have the loans that pass through the year Shemitah, and the year Shemitah voids all the loans. So Hillel was misaken that you write a prusbol, which is basically giving over your loans to the Bezdin, and then you're able to collect the loan. So the Gemara here asks, what is this word? My prusbol. What's the meaning of this word prusbol? Where does it come from? Omer Rav Chisda. So Rav Chisda answers, Prois. So Rashi says Prois means a takana, something that the Chachamim instituted. Buli ubuti, for the rich and for the poor. So where do we see that the words buli and buti means for the rich and the poor? So the Gemara here brings buli elo ashirim. Buli means those that are rich. The Chsev, the pasuk says, V'shavarti es ga'oi nuschem. I will break the pride of your greatness. And this is when Yidden are going to be, their pride will take them away from the Eibishter. And what does the word Ga'in Nuschem over there mean? The Tani Rav Yosef, on that, Rav Yosef explains, Elu Buloi Sheb Yehuda. These were the rich people in Yehuda that because of their richness, they strayed off, they went away from the Eibishter. So Buli means the ones that are rich. And Buti, Elo Ha'aniyim, Buti refers to those that are poor. The Chsiv, the Pasuk says, Have Tavitenu, you should lend money to him. So apparently the word Buti has the two letters of Beis and Tes that you have in the words of Havet Tavitanu, which refers to a person that's poor and therefore he has to borrow money. So Rashi here explains that what this means is prusbol, that Hillel was misakin the takana of prusbol for the purpose of the rich and for the poor. But for the rich, that they shouldn't lose their money that they lent out, and for the poor also, that they should have an opportunity to borrow money. Because if people are going to know that they're not going to get paid back because of Shemitah, they're not going to want to lend money. So it's actually interesting the way Rashi explains this, because it comes out then that the takana of prusbol is different than the way it seems from the Mishnah that was quoted in the Gemara before. Before the Gemara quoted that the prusbol Chachamim instituted was because Hillel saw that people are being over on the pasuk Isham Melacha, that you should be careful not to hold back from lending money to people, and they were over on this lav. Pen yedavim levavcha bliyal. But here Rashi says that the purpose of the prusbol was for the benefit of the Ashirim, for the benefit of the Aniyim, that the Ashirim shouldn't lose money, and the Aniyim shouldn't have people close the door in front of them not to lend them money. Amalei Rava l'loyaza. Rava said to someone that spoke a different language, and he spoke and he said this word prusbol. So he asked him, what does this word mean? My prusbol, amalei porsa de milsa. It's a takana for this matter. It's rectifying the matter. That so the prusbol means a takana. But you can see over here, the Gemara, whenever it speaks about prusbol, it says prusbol with a samach, but most times prusbol is spelled with a zayin. So apparently samach and zayin are interchangeable. So for some reason it got changed from samach to zayin. When Rashi brings the word prusbol, he says it with a zayin, the Gemara says it with a samach. So the Gemara, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Yisaimim ein tzrichim prusbol. Yisaimim, and these are Yisaimim that are ketanim. They're under bar mitzvah, and they have a loan that they want to collect, that someone owed their father. So they don't need to prusbol to be able to collect that loan that was owed to their father. That's Rashi's pshat in the Gemara. Other Rishonim say that it's speaking about Yisaimim that lent money themselves, not a loan from their father. V'chein Tani Rami Bar Chama. Rami Bar Chama said the same thing. Yisaimim ein tzrichim prusbol. You don't need a prusbol for Yisaimim that want to collect the money. Why? The Rabbi Gamliel, ubeis dinoi aviyan shel Yisaimim, because Rabbi Gamliel and his Bezdin, in his times when he was the Bezdin, so he's the father of Yisaimim. When it comes to Yisaimim Ketanim, the Bezdin appoints an apotropos, which is a shliach of the Bezdin, to take care of the possessions and the money and everything that belongs to Yisaimim. So you don't have to do a prusbol. The whole idea of prusbol is that you give over the loan to the Bezdin. But by all Yisaimim Ketanim, the Bezdin naturally takes over the loans and everything from the Yisraelim. They're the ones that collect everything. So without making a prusbol, it's automatically that way, that it's controlled and run by the Bezdin. Tanan also, we learned there, going back to a Mishnah in Masechta Shvius, where it speaks more details about the halachas of prusbol. So it says, there ain't kais from prusbol el ala karka. You only write a prusbol if the borrower owns a piece of land. And the reason for this is, Rashi says, because Chachamim only instituted prusbol for a situation which is common. And the common loans are only to a person that owns a piece of land. If he doesn't own a piece of land, the malva is not ready to lend money, at least not big money, because he doesn't know, he has no guarantee that he's going to get paid back. So in a place where he does not own any land, that's a milsa d'lo shchiche, so the takana of prusbol does not apply there. Im ein loy. if the borrower does not own a piece of land, mizakeyu b'teich sadeyu kolshu. So the malva, the lender, can be mizake to him. He gives him a small, tiny piece of land in his property, and sadeh kolshu, and the small piece of land, and with that, the prosbul is able to take effect. The kama kolshu, how much is this tiny piece of land that the loiva has to have, that you have to give the loiva so that you can apply, you can have the takon of prosbul? Even just one piece of cabbage. Okay, what? Okay, even one cabbage stalk, a tiny piece of land, that's enough to be able to have the din of prosbul. What's the reason for this? I mean, this is what the Malva is relying on, that he's going to collect from this. So Rashi says, we had this in the Gemara Text, and we had it also quoted before, there's a story of Gittin da Abaye that was a tiny piece of property, and the Malva was able to collect from this tiny property, and then he got reimbursed from the loiva, and then he collected from it again. So it is sometimes possible that from a small piece of land, you end up collecting your entire loan. Taisus here says that when it comes to real estate, when it comes to properties, there's no value. You can't evaluate what its value is, because the value goes up and down. It could be a tiny piece of land, but if it's in an expensive place, the value could jump up very high, and you could get even from a tiny piece a lot of money. Amar Rav Yehuda, Rav Yehuda say even further than this. Even if the malva or someone else lent a space to the loive, giving him the permission to place an oven, different types of ovens there, so he doesn't even own this karka, but he has the rights to place his oven there. That's enough that the loiva has a piece of land that you could write a prosbul for this. So the Rishonim discussed this. What value is this piece of land? He only borrowed it. So some Rishonim say that from this Gemara you see that even though the halacha is that if you borrow something, you can't allow someone else to borrow that item from you, because only you have the rights to use it, not anyone else. But by a piece of karka, when you borrow a piece of land, the rights to use a piece of land, you are allowed to lend that use to someone else. So over here, you do have some kind of piece of karka that you could lend the use to someone else, or it has some value of karka that you have here. And therefore, this is enough for prosbul. But the Gemara asks on this, Eini, could this be true? But Vatani Hillel taught from a Braisa, and this Hillel is not the Hillel that was Masakin the Takana of prosbul. Rashi says this Hillel here was an Amaira. Ein kais from prosbul, you can't write a prosbul, ela al otzitz nokov bulvad. If you don't own a piece of land, but all you own is a flower pot. So, but if that flower pot does not have any holes in it, and it's not getting its nourishment from the ground, so then you can't write a prosbul, because you have to have a piece of karka. So it has to be connected to the ground. Yeah. So what do we see from this? Nokovin, if it has a hole, then you can write a prosbul. Shein nokov lo, if it does not have a hole, you could not write a prosbul. But the question is, why not? Amai, but that flower pot is sitting on a piece of land somewhere. Either that piece of land it's sitting on belongs to you, but even if it doesn't, we just said that if someone lends you that space and allows you to place it there, so that itself is enough that you can write a prosbul for it. So where's this otzitz sitting? This flower pot is sitting somewhere, so even without holes, you should be able to write a prosbul. And says the Gemara, the monach hasichi. This flower pot is not sitting on the ground itself. It's raised up and it's sitting on pegs, and therefore it's actually you don't have the right to use that piece of land that's under it, because it's sitting higher up on pegs, and therefore the only way you could write a prosbul is if there's holes in it and it still gets some nourishment from the ground. So therefore you could write a prosbul. The Rishonim will ask on this, but what's with the space of where the pegs are? The pegs are on the ground itself. The Gemara before said even a small piece of krov, a small piece of cabbage is enough. So some Rishonim answer that before it was talking about owning the piece of land, and it said if you own a piece of land that has, over here it's talking about that you borrow the space. So when you only borrow the space, such a tiny space that you borrowed where you could only put pegs is not good enough. Yeah. Other Rishonim say that the sichi, the pegs itself don't belong to you. The flower pot belongs to you, but the pegs don't belong to you either. So therefore you can't write a prosbul for this. Ravashi maknila gidme de dikla. Ravashi, so he had a loan that someone owed him, so he gave to the borrower a gidme de dikla, a cut-off trunk of a tree that he should have, that piece of land that, from a date tree, a palm tree, yeah, the cost of that prosbul, and that was the stump of the tree, okay, and that was enough to write a prosbul for it. Rabbana de Ravashi, okay, this is a sort of another halacha here regarding prosbul, and this is actually the way we do it today. till here we learned in the Gemara that a prusbul, you have to write a star, and you have to have the dayanim or the edim sign it and so on. But here the Gemara says, Rabbanan de Beravashi, Masri milayo lahadadi. So they would give over their loans one to another. They would have a bezin of 3, and they would say to each other, I'm giving over my loan to you, and then the others would say back, I'm giving over my loan to you, and like this, each one created a prusbul by giving over their loan to each other. This is the way we do it today. Right? So from here, the Rishonim speak about this, exactly how it has to be done, but the Ramah and Shulchan Aruch and the Alter Rebbe also in Shulchan Aruch brings this at B'Poel. The way we do the prusbul today is you don't write it in any document, but you just give it over to a bezdin, like we do it today by the Ataris Nadarim. Rabbi Yonasan Masa Mili Rabbi Chia Barabba. Rabbi Yonasan gave over his loan to Rabbi Chia Barabba. He just told him verbally that he's giving him over his loan. And Amalei, then he asked him, Tzrichne midi achrine? Do I have to do anything else besides this that I gave over my loan to you? Amalei lo tzriches. No, there's nothing else. This is enough. Another chiddush here in this Gemara is, it seems from the Gemara that he gave it over to Rabbi Chia Bar Abba alone. So some Rishonim say that Ataka means that he gave it over to one person even without a bezdin. Even though we said before it has to be a bezdin. But some Rishonim say that he was a Yochid Mumche, that it's possible that you can give it to one person. But the Rashi says that even though it says in the Gemara, Rabbi Chia Bar Abba, there was another 2 people along with him. You have to have a bezdin of 3. Tana Rabbanan, going back to the subject of the fact that the loive must own a piece of karka for the prusbul to take effect. Ein loy karka, so if the loive does not own a piece of karka, but ula arav yesh loy karka, but he has a guarantor, if he doesn't pay the loan, so then the guarantor will pay the loan, that arev owns a piece of karka. Kaisun olav prusbul, that's enough, you can write a prusbul for this. Loy ula arev eilan karka, not the loive, or not the guarantor own a piece of karka, but ula chayiv loy yesh loy karka. But there's another individual that owes money to the loive, and he has a piece of karka. That's how Rashi says. Rashi says it's only if it's someone that owes money to the loive. Others say that, other Rishonim say, even if there's a third person that owes money to the orev, not necessarily to the loive himself. But even with this, kaisvin olav prusbul, you could write a prusbul. How could you write a prusbul? The loive doesn't own a piece of karka. The answer is mid Rab Nosson. This is based on what Rab Nosson said. The Tanya, Rab Nosson Naimer, Rab Nosson said the following halacha. How do you know that if you are collecting money from your friend, a money from your friend, and then and the friend of yours that you're collecting money from, he owes you money, someone else owes him money. All right, so basically you have Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. So Reuven lent money to Shimon, and Shimon lent money to Levi. So in such a case, as Rab Nosson minayin shemitzim mizev v'noisnu lezeh, that you take the money from Levi and you give it directly to Reuven without Shimon in between. Since Reuven is collecting from Shimon, and Shimon would collect the money from Levi, so you just take the money directly from Levi and give it to Reuven. Talmud loyma, so the pasuk says, v'nosan la'asher osham loy. Give the money to the one that is guilty, the one that you owe the money to. This is in a case where a person swore falsely, and then he has to pay the money. And he also, there's a penalty, he has to pay a chaimish. So the pasuk doesn't say, give the money who you stole it from. When you denied that you owe the money, it doesn't say. It says, give it to the one that's osham loy, the one that you're guilty to, which means not necessarily to the one that you borrowed the money from, but the one that the money should end up by, which is the first person here. If it's Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, so the Levi gives it to Reuven. That's the din of Rab Nosson. This is brought in Shas many times. It's known as Shibuda de Rab Nosson. There's a very big discussion in Rishonim about this because the concept of Shibuda de Rab Nosson seems to be very simple and logical. What do you need a big chiddush over here from a pasuk that you can do this? There's a Rashi in another place that says that Levi can't say to Reuven, "Lav bal d'dvarim didiyat." Who are you? I don't know you. How are you coming and collecting money from me? I borrowed money from Shimon. I don't owe you any money. So that's why he's saying, no, Reuven can take Levi to a dinteira and collect money from him. There's a very big discussion in Rishonim about this. There's also a beautiful Rishima from the Rebbe, in Chaveres Kuf Nun Vav, where the Rebbe explains this halacha of Shibuda de Rab Nosson, Beruchnius, Benegei to Avodas Hashem, Torah mitzvahs amongst Yidden. And the Nekudah that the Rebbe there says is that the Eibishter comes and demands from every Yid to pay up the dues that he owes. His neshama came down into the world and he has to pay up. And the Yid turns to the Eibishter and says, I don't have what to pay. So who comes to support the Yid that doesn't have what to pay? So the tzaddik, the Nasi of the Dur, the Moshe Rabbeinu in the generation, he comes, he's the one that has the responsibility to give the Yid a koyach that he should be able to pay the Eibishter. And he goes and gives the payment for a Yid that can't pay for himself directly to the Eibishter. That's B'chlol is the pshat that the Rebbe says, a very big arichas. The Rebbe speaks about this the whole, all the different details that Rav Nosson says here.
Says the Levi needs to have karka.
Correct. The Levi needs to own karka.
Because he needs a guarantee.
Yeah.
So the Arv is the guarantee. What the Arv needs karka for?
And a chanami, but if the Arv has no karka, then it's a very bad guarantee. If the Arv himself doesn't own a piece of karka, so he's guaranteeing he's going to pay, but the Malva is not relying on that too much. Just to remind me, that another word that the Rebbe mentioned, Kama Pamim, regarding this halacha, that for prosbul, you need to own a piece of karka. What happens today if a person doesn't own a piece of karka? So some Rishonim say you could rely on the fact that every single Yid owns in Eretz Yisrael Dal Damas. Every single Yid owns 4 Amos in Eretz Yisrael, so you can write a prosbul, or say the prosbul the way we say it today. Tanan also going back again to the Mishnah there in Shvius. So there the Mishnah says as follows: Hashvius mishametes asamilva. Shvius voids a loan. Bein bishtar, whether this a loan that's written with a document. Bein shaloi bishtar, whether a loan without a document. So what does the Mishnah mean when it says whether with a document or without? So there's a machlokes here. Rav Shmuel Domri Tavayu, Rav Shmuel both said bishtar sheyesh be'achrais nechasim. When it says bishtar, it means a document written properly where you're taking responsibility that you're going to pay with your properties that you have, with karka. There's a lien on your properties. That's what shtar means. Shaloi bishtar means that even if there is a document, but there's no lien through this loan that's placed on your properties. And kol shekain milve al peh. And definitely, if the loan has no document at all, so definitely the shmita will come and void this loan. Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish Domri Tavayu, but Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish both said when the Mishnah said bishtar, it meant bishtar shtar she'ein boy achrais nechasim. It only meant such a kind of a document that there's no lien on your properties because of this loan. And shaloi bishtar, when it says without a shtar, means literally without any shtar at all. Milva al peh, a loan that was just made without any shtar at all. Avol shtar sheyesh be'achrais nechasim. If you have a proper shtar and you take responsibility that the payment could come from your properties as well, einim mishamet. So then Shemitah will not void such a loan, and Rashi explains, as we'll see in the continuation of the Gemara, because it's as if those properties were already collected by the lender. Because your properties, if there's a lien on it, is here. The properties are not going anywhere. So there's a lien on it, and that lien itself is sort of a certain aspect of ownership. It's as if he collected it already. So how could Shemitah void this loan? It's as if it's his already. Tanya, we learned in the Brayse, Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. We learned like their opinion that once there's a lien on the properties itself, there's no Shemitah, does not void this. So there's a Brayse that says shtar chayiv mishamet. That even if there is a document for the loan, still Shemitah voids the loan. But vim yesh boy achrayis nechasim, if there's a lien on the properties, ein mishamet. So then it does not void the loan. Exactly like they said. Tanya Yidach, and another Brayse we learned similar. Siyim loisada achas bal va'asai. If when you borrowed money, so the loive made very clear exactly from which property the malva will have a right to collect, he showed him the borders of the property where he could collect from, so then it doesn't void the loan because this is already like collected to the lender. Furthermore, the Brayse says even if he didn't mamish show him a specific property, all of my properties are responsible and are guarantees for this loan. So the Shemitah will not void it because it's already like collected. So the story happened with a relative of Ravasi. So he had a loan that he lent someone, and the shtar he had was written in it, that there's a lien on the properties of the borrower. So it came to Ravasi after Shemitah. Such a kind of loan, does Shemitah void the loan or not? No, because there's a lien on the property, so it's like collected, so it doesn't void the loan. So he left him and he came to Rabbi Yochanan and he asked Rabbi Yochanan the question. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, even such a kind of loan does void the loan. So after Rabbi Yochanan heard that Rabbi Yochanan paskin different than him, so Rabbi came to Rabbi Yochanan. In such a case, does it void the loan or not? Amalei mishamit. So Rabbi Yochanan says yes, it does void the loan. So Ravasi asked him, but Vahamar, Huda Amar, Ein Mishamet, Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, before both said that when there's a lien on the properties, then it does not void the loan. Amalei, so Rabbi Yechanan answered him, because we have a svara, we have a certain idea that we came up with that it should be considered as if the property is already collected, so you can't void a loan. Nasa Maisa, should we paskin like this? I said a svara. What Rashi says, he didn't have a Kabbalah from his teachers that this is the halacha. So it's not enough to rely on the svara that you have to paskin la halacha lamaisa. Amalei, Rav Asi asked him further, but Vatanya Kvasei Demar. We brought before more than one brayse that supports what this svara that you said, so it's not your own svara. Amalei, so he answered him, this brayse is not enough of a proof. Because Dilme, possibly, Ahi, Beishamai. That brayse may only be following the opinion of Beishamai, and we never pass like Beishamai. What's Beishamai's opinion? The Omri, Beishamai say, Shtar ha'oimed ligbois kegovidomi. That any document which is standing to be collected is as if it's collected. Beishamai says this regarding a ksuba, by a saita. In the case of a saita that didn't get a chance to drink the waters of the saita to determine if she was mezana or not, and her husband passed away before that, could she collect her ksuba or not? It's a suffix. Beishamai says, yes, she has a chazaka. It's as if it's already in her possession. So maybe the brises before that say that when there's a lien on the karkois, that there's no shmita, maybe that's only Beishamai's opinion, but we can't prove from there that we should pass in this way. Okay, going back to the Mishnah in Shvius. Tanan Hossam, we learned in the Mishnah of Shvius, Hamalvas Chavere Mois Alamashkin. You borrow money from your friend, or you lend money, that is, to your friend, Alamashkin, on a collateral. So now you have already an object in your possession for the payment right away. Or you give over your shtaris to the bezdin. This is basically the concept of a prusbel. According to Rashi, this is the same thing as a prusbel. So Shemitah does not take effect for the loan. Says the Gemara, when it says that you give over the documents of your loan to the bezdin, the tafsuluhu beidina. So the bezdin now has your loan, like we learned before. Here Rashi brings the opinion of Rava before, that there's a koyach of hefker, bezdin, hefker. So bezdin's collecting the loan, so there's no lo yigois. You're not pressing the loiva to collect. But ela malva lamashke my time. If you lend someone money and he gives you a collateral, why should Shemitah not take effect? So Rava answers, mishum de tafaslei. Because you're already holding on to something as a payment. So when it comes the time of payment, you don't have to press him to pay you. You already have something in your possession from him. If he wants to get it back, so he's going to have to pay you for it, but you don't have to press him for anything. So Abaye said, if that's the case, if that's the reason why when you have a collateral, so then the Shemitah will not take effect, so if so, hilvo v'dor b'chatzerei. What's in a case that you lent money to someone, and you happen to be living in the house or the courtyard of this person that you lent money to, the toughest late. So you living in his house. If he's not going to pay you, you can just stay there. You can be a squatter and live in his house without paying rent because you lent him money and he's not paying you. So you also sort of already have something in your hands from the loiva, and you will not have to press him. Are you going to say the same halacha even without an actual mashkin? Are you going to say that the Shemitah will not take effect? So Rava answered him, it's not the same thing. Shani mashkin, when you get an actual collateral, not stam living in his house, but when you get an actual collateral from him, that's different. The kanelem de Rabbi Yitzchak, a mashkin, you acquire it. It's yours to some extent. And we see this from what Rabbi Yitzchak said. Rabbi Yitzchak said, Minayin lebalchoiv shekaina mashkin. How do I know that a balchoiv, a malva that collects a mashkin, so he has a rights, he acquires this mashkin. Shenema, the pasuk says, l'choti tzedakah, that it'll be a tzedakah for you. What is the pasuk there saying? The pasuk says that when you take a mashkin, so if it's something that the loiva needs at night, give it back to him at night. And if he needs it by day, give it back to him by day. And this will be a tzedakah, the fact that you're allowing him to use it. Now, so Rabbi Yitzchak said on this, if you did not acquire it, tzedakah minayin. Why is the pasuk referring this as a tzedakah? You're giving it to him as a tzedakah. It's not even yours. You have to give it back to him. So from this I see that when a lender takes a collateral, it becomes yours to some extent. You have the achrayus over it, and so therefore only by a mashkin do you say that Shemitah will not take effect. Fight to the Gemara says another halacha there in the Mishnah in Shvius. What? Okay, yeah, mashkin and metaltalin, correct, yeah.
Even doesn't.
Huh? You're kainet, correct. He's kainet. So Tanan Osam, it says there in the Mishnah of Shvius, Hamachze chayiv lechaveiroi b'shvius. So if someone comes to return a loan to his friend after Shemitah, right? So here Rashi says this is after the end of Shemitah, because the halacha is that Shemitah only takes effect at the end of the year of Shemitah. That's when it absolves, that's when it voids the loan. So he comes and to pay him after Shemitah. The lender has to say to the borrower that wants to pay him, Mishametani. He has to verbally tell him, Mishametani, I leave go from the loan, and therefore you don't have to pay me. Now, Im Amaloi, Afa Pikain. If the loiva comes and says, no, I still want to pay, Yikabale Menu. So then he could accept the payment from him. Shenemar, because the pasuk says, Vizeh Dvar Hashmita, that this is the words of Shemitah, the halacha of Shemitah. That's the simple meaning of the pasuk. But Dvar Shemitah means that the mitzvah of Shemitah's ksafim consists just of the fact that when the borrower wants to pay, the lender has to tell him that no, I let go. You don't have to pay me. But more than that, you don't have to do. If he wants to pay you, you can take this payment. Here, from this piece of the Gemara, you see here, the Rebbe discusses this in Barichas and Asicha. There's a big discussion regarding what happens when the Shemitah voids the loan. Does it really mean that Shemitah automatically, completely voids the loan? The Lashon that it says in one of the Rishonim is, it's an afkata de malka. The Eibishter comes and just uproots the entire loan? Or no, the loan is still a loan, but you have a mitzvah to let go of it and not collect. So here it says that you have to say that I'm not collecting from you. But if the borrower says, I want to pay anyways, so then you can just take the loan without a problem. And here the Gemara goes even further and says an unbelievable thing. Omar Rabbe said about this, or Rabbe, there's a guy that's here. V'tolile adam achi. You could hang him. You can the lender could hang the borrower. He can force him to pay him. If he can force him to pay him, and even though it's Shemitah, and first you say, I let go, I'm not collecting. But then after that, once you say, Mishamet Ani, you can force him to pay you. And he should say, Afal Pikain, that I do want to pay. That's Rashi's trap in the Gemara. Somebody's trying to ask on this, because it sounds like, you're basically, there's no point to this entire Shemitah. It's just a matter of words. You're saying that Mishamet Ani, but then you could go and hang him and force him to pay you after you said Mishamet Ani. So there is other pshatim in Rishonim, but regarding Rashi's pshat, the Bach says, and other Mefarshim say, that if the loiva never came and offered to pay, so then you're not allowed to force him to pay you. Once he came and offered to pay you, Elamai, you said Mishamet Ani, so you fulfilled your mitzvah of Shemitah by saying Mishamet Ani, but since he offered to pay you, you don't have to do any more than that. Now you could actually force him to pay you. Okay. Right to the Gemara says, Esvei Abaye asked on this that Rabba or Rava said you could force him to pay you after you said Mishamatani, because it says in the Braisa, Kishahu Noisin Loi, if the loiva wants to pay you anyways and he gives the pay, Al Yom Loi B'choyvi Ani Noisin Lacha. He shouldn't say that I'm paying you for the loan that I owe you. El Yom Loi, what he should say is, Shali, hey, really I can keep this money because you already told me Mishamatani, but Matana Ani Noisin Lacha, I'm giving it to you as a gift. Okay, so what do you see from this? So the Gemara understands, Abaye understands over here that if he's giving it as a gift, you can force someone to give you a gift. You can't force him. So how could Rabbi say that you force him? Amalei, so Rabbi says, no, Tali leinami adam achi. You could force him until he tells you that I'm giving you this gift. So here the Gemara brings the story how this played out actually. Abba bar Marta. So one of the Amiroim by the name of Abba bar Marta, or Duhu Abba bar Menyomi, or he had another name, Abba bar Menyomi, have a masik bei Rabbe Zuzi. So he owed money to Rabbe. Rabbe wanted to collect money from him, and it was after Shemitah. I seen in Alei B'Shviyah, so he brought him he came to him to pay him the loan after Shemitah. Amalei, so Rabbe said to him, Mishametani, I let go from the loan, you don't have to pay me. So Shaklinu Vazal. So he was happy. He took his money and went. So he didn't pay. Also Abaye came to Rabbe Ashkechei Dava. He sees that Rabbe is sad. Amalei Amay Yotziv Mar. What? Why are you sad today? Amalei Hachi Avamaisa. This is what happened. This person owed me money, and I told him Mishamet Ani, and he took it, and he didn't pay me. So Abaye went to Abba bar Marta. Amalei, and he said to him, did you bring money to pay Rabbi, the money that you borrowed from him? Amalei, yes, I did. Amalei, so Abaye says to him, and what did Rabbi tell you? Amalei, Mishamatani. He told me Mishamatani, that I don't have to pay him. Amalei, so Abaye tells him, V'amartalei afal pikein. And did you offer anyways to pay him for this loan? Amalei, no, I didn't say to him afal pikein. Amalei, so Abaye said to him, V'i amrit lei afal pikein. If you would have told him that I anyways want to pay you, have a shaklina minoch. He would have taken the pay from you. Hashte miyis amtinin alei. So now, go now and offer him to pay him the loan that you owe him. And tell him that I still want to pay you. Azal, so Abba Mamarta went, Amtinu Na'alei, he brought the money to Rabbe, Vamalei Afal Pikain, and he told him, I still want to pay you, and Shaklina Minei. And Rabbe took the pay from him, like the Psaktin that Rabbe himself said before. Omar, so then Rabbi said, this Talmud Chacham did not have his mind with him from the beginning to realize that when I said Mishamet Ani, that's the fulfillment of the mitzvah, and after that, he should pay me the loan anyways. Amar Rav Yudah, Amar Rav Nachman, Rav Yudah said, in the name of Rav Nachman, a person's belief to say when he comes to collect a loan after Shemitah, and he has to show that he has a pruzbul that he could collect his loan. Even if he doesn't have that pruzbul, he's believed to say that I had a pruzbul and I lost it. Usually, a person that doesn't have any document to prove his loan, he's not believed to say that he lost it. But here, you are believed. My time, what's the reason? Since Chachamim instituted that you write a pruzbul to be allowed to collect your loan, so we have a chazakah. A person would not leave an option that he has to collect the loan beheter, and he's going to collect the loan be'isr. So he must have wrote a pruzbul. We have a chazakah, we can rely on it. When they came to Rav, Rav actually did not rely on this. Rav said, midi pruzbul. Rav actually did agree to this. Rav went even a step further. Rav actually supported, and he even brought up this idea from the beginning. He would ask the Malve, you're not showing a pruzbul, but perhaps you had a pruzbul and you lost it. So even if he doesn't bring up this taina himself, Rav would tell him the taina before. Now this is also a very big chiddush. Usually, a bezdin is not allowed to tell any of the litigants in a din Torah a taina that they could say. But if you hear Rav himself brought up this taina that you probably had a pruzbul and lost it, no? And the Gemara says, Kogoin zeh, this example is a situation where bezdin is allowed to do this because psach picha le'ilim hu. This is a lashon of a pasuk that sometimes Bezdin has to open the mouth of the one that's mute and has to tell him something that's obvious, that we know that he should say. So now the Gemara brings a question on this, but Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, V'chein bal chayv shemoitzi shtar chayv. So the Mishnah Ksubah says that a bal chayv that takes out a shtar chayv to collect money with it, but v'eini my pruzbul, he does not have a pruzbul with him, and it's after Shemitah. Ha'arei lo yifru. So this does not get paid. So here, this Mishnah is saying that without a pruzbul, you don't get paid. And Rashi explains, this must be speaking about a case where the person is saying that he had the pruzbul and lost it. And that's the chiddush over here in this Mishnah, that even though he's arguing that I had a pruzbul and lost it, nevertheless he can't get paid. Says the Gemara Tanoihi. This halacha here is a machlekes Tanoim. The Tanya and another brayso we learned, Hameitzi shtar chayv, a person that takes out a document to collect his loan after Shemitah, tzarech sheyehei imay pruzbul. He must have the pruzbul with him. He's not believed to say that he had one and lost it. But for Chachamim Maimrim, ein it tzarech. Chachamim say does not need the pruzbul. He's believed with the chazakah we mentioned before that a person would not eat isser if he could eat heter, so he doesn't need a pruzbul with him. This is the conclusion of the sugya of pruzbul. Okay, let's learn another piece over here in the Gemara. We begin a new Mishnah. This is another Mishnah, and the other Mishnahs we'll see here, which is connected to the takonis that we brought before, a takona that Rabbi Gamliel was misakin. So here this Mishnah is another halacha which is related to a certain takona that Chazal were misakin. Zok Teilige Mishnah, Evet Shenishba, an Evet Kanani that was captured by Goyim, and we want to get him redeemed. Upadu, and a Yid came and redeemed him. If the one that redeemed him with the purpose of him still being a slave, yishtabed. So then he's gonna be redeemed of the guy that captured him, but he's still gonna have to be a slave. But if the one that redeemed him with the purpose of him being completely freed from his master, then lo yishtabed. So then he's not gonna have to work at all. Rav Shimon Gamliel says, Benkach benkach yishtabed. Either way, no matter what the intention of the one that freed him was, either way he's going to have to go back to work. What is the case over here with this slave that got captured? If you're going to say that the original owner of this slave did not give up hope of freeing this slave and getting him back, he owns him. So l'shum ben chayrin, if there's someone else that comes and frees this slave, he pays and frees him from the captivity, amay lo yishtabed. Why should he not still have to go back to his original owner to work for him? I mean, he's still owned by his original master, and his original master never gave up because there was no yish at all. Elo lachayish. So you're going to have to say, what is it speaking about after the original owner gave up already for him? And the Yush, you lose rights over this Eved. Once you gave up, so then the Yush, you have no ownership over him anymore. So if so, the question is, L'shum Eved. So when it says that the one that freed him with the purpose that he should go back to be an Eved, why should he have to go back? And at this point, the Gemara thinks that it means to go back to work for the original owner. But why? He was already Miyayish. So the Gemara here brings two pshatim for this. Amar Abaye, so Abaye says, Lo'ilam lifnei yush. We're talking about over here a case where the owner did not give up for his slave to get him back. Now, but L'shum Eved, if the one that freed him in order that he should go back and work, Yishtabed l'Rabbi Rishon, so then he has to go back to work for his first master, which never gave up on him. It does mean, though, that the first master is not going to get him back for free. He's going to have to reimburse the person that freed him, but he's going to have to go back to the first master because he still is his owner. L'shom ben chayrin, but if he freed him, if the one that freed him was with the intention that he should be free, so then lo yishtabed lo l'Rabbi Rishon v'lo l'Rabbi Sheni. So then he's not going to have to work not for his first master and not for his second master. And the Gemara explains why not. L'Rabbi Sheni loy, for this individual now that came and freed him, he doesn't have to work for him. Because he freed him with the intention that he should be a free man. L'Rabbi Rishon nami loy, for the first master, he also does not have to go back and work, even though he never gave up on him. So here, this is a takana. What's the takana of Chazal? Because dilme mimni v'loy parki. People will hold themselves back of freeing this slave if they know that I'm freeing this slave and he's not even going to be a free man. He's going to go back to have to work for his first master. So people will hold themselves back from freeing this slave. If he's a full yid, if he becomes free, they'll free him. But otherwise, they're not going to free him. On that, Rav Shimon Gamliel said, Benkach or Benkach yishtabed, either way, whoever frees him, whatever his intention was, he is going to have to go back to work for his first master. Kasava, Rav Shimon Gamliel disagrees with this takana. Chachamah were not masaking this because kishem shemitzvah liftis is bnei chayrin, just like there's a mitzvah to go and free a yid that's a ben chayrin from captivity. Kach mitzvah liftis is avada. So too there's a mitzvah to free a slave that's in captivity. A slave is also a partial yid. He has mitzvahs like a woman. So there's a mitzvah to free the slave. So the fact that after you free him, he's going to have to go back and work for his master is not going to prevent people of wanting to go and free him. This is one pshat. So this is Abaye's pshat in the Mishnah. It's speaking about when the master did not have any yish. He did not give up on getting back his slave that was captured. Rav Amar has another pshat, lo'ilam la'acha yish. The Mishnah is speaking about over here when the master already gave up on him. So if the master gave up on him, so why should in any situation this slave go back to the first master? So Rav explains, L'shum eved yishtabed l'Rabbi Sheni. What it said over here in the Mishnah, that when the person freed him to be an Eved, so he has to go and work, he doesn't go work back to his first master, he already gave up on him. He has to work for the one that freed him. Rabbi Sheni, this person now. L'shum ben chayren, and if he frees him with the intention that he should be a free man, lo yishtabed lo l'Rabbi Rishon v'lo l'Rabbi Sheni, he doesn't work not for the first master, not for the second, and that's simple. Rabbi Sheni loi, for the second one, not the whole Hashem and chayren parke. He redeemed him with the intention that he should be free. Because it's after Yish, so it's after Yish, he doesn't work for anybody. So according to this opinion, the Tanakama is not saying any takana. The Tanakama is saying very simple. He was Miyayish, so the first master doesn't get anything. But the second one, the one that's redeeming him now, if he's redeeming him l'shem Eved, so then he acquires him. The Gemara will later explain how could the one that's redeeming him now acquire him. He's acquiring him from who? He's acquiring him from the people that captured him. How do they have any right to him, to sell him to him, that he should not own him? The Gemara will explain this later. Now on this, according to this pshat of Rave, Rab Shimon Gamliel came and said that there's a takon of Chazal. Benkach or benkach yishtabed, either way, no matter what the intention of the person that freed him was, even if his intention was that he should go free, he's still going to have to work for him. As Chizkiah said. Chizkiah said, why did Rab Shimon Gamliel say that either way he's going to have to go and work? And this actually means he doesn't work for the second person that redeemed him. It actually means he has to go back to work for the original master, even though the original master already gave up on him. Why does he have to go back and work for him? Because otherwise, this is a very simple way for an Evet to get himself free. He's going to go and throw himself to Goyim that are going to capture him, and then the master is going to give up on him, and then he's going to get freed by someone else. So we don't want to have this loophole for these avodim to free themselves. So therefore, according to the Pshat of Rava, Rab Shimon Gamliel is saying that there's a special takana that when he's freed, he has to go back to work for his first master. Okay, so the Gemara here brings a braisa, which will clearly point out the Pshat that Abaye said, and not Rava's Pshat. So Meisvei, the Gemara asks, Amalan Rab Shimon Gamliel said to the Chachamim, Kishem shemitzvah liftes as b'nei chayrin, kach mitzvah liftes as avodim. That why are you saying that there's a special takana that Chazal made that when he's being freed, that he has to go back and again that he goes free. Again, according to Abaye's Pshat, Chachamim made a special takana that he goes free, and on that Rab Shimon Gamliel responded, no, he doesn't go free. Kishem shemitzvah livdes as b'nei chayrin, kach mitzvah livdes as avodim. Either way, Yidden will not hold themselves back of freeing this Eved because either way there's a mitzvah to free him, and everyone will do it. That's the lashon that it says in the Brayso. Now this is exactly Abaye's Pshat. Abaye said that the case over here is that the first master never gave up at all. Hainu the Ka'amar Kishem. So therefore, that was the Pshat that Abaye explained before. That the Tanakhama said that there's a takana that he should go free. And then nevertheless, so on that, Rab Shimon Gamliel responds, no, we don't have to be misaken that he goes free. But according to Rava, that said that the pshat is that the master already gave up, so there's no takana. The opinion of the Tanakhama is not based on any takana. It's already after Yush. So then the Tanakhama was saying that it depends on the kavanah of the person that's freeing him, if he goes free or not. But there's no takana over here. So hi kishem. So why is Rab Shimon Gamliel responding with this svara of kishem that only fits with Abaye's opinion? Mishum dechiskiyahu. What Rab Shimon Gamliel should be saying is that there's a special takana, like Rava explained, like Chizkiya said, that Rab Shimon Gamliel is the one that said that there's a special takana that he should always have to go back to his first master. So this is clearly a brayso like Abaye, not like Rava. Amalach Rava will answer you, Rab Shimon Gamliel lo have yoda mai ka'amri Rabbanan. He wasn't sure when Rabbanan said their halacha that there's a distinction whether the one that's freeing him is freeing him with the intention that he should be free or with the intention that he should be an eved. So they didn't understand 100% what the Rabbanan was saying. And therefore Rab Shimon Gamliel is responding to the Chachamim and saying as follows: if you're saying your opinion and it's before the first master gave up, so hainu kishem. So therefore I answer you that no, we always have to allow him to hainu kishem. They responded and said that no, that we always say that he can go back and be an eved because people will not hold themselves back of freeing him. So this is the lashon of the Brayso. That's if the Tanakhama was speaking about a case of lifnei yish. And if the Chachamim are speaking about a case of after yish, then Chizkiya. So then the svara will be like Chizkiya said before, that Rab Shimon Gamliel was misaken a special takana that he should always have to go back to the first master. So according to Rava, Rab Shimon Gamliel was not sure what the Rabbanan was saying. That's why the Brayso brings this svara as well. Okay.